Oi, tô aqui com o diretor criativo de 2XKO, Mike. Mike, creative director for 2XKO. It's an honor to meet you, man, honestly.
It's an honor to meet you, or to hang out with you. We've met, but it's an honor to hang out with you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, excited for 2X as always.
Thank you.
And I mean, it's great to see it at EVO at like such a big event. A lot of people coming up to play the game and give their impressions. So yeah, I got a couple questions about the game. If you're able to answer them.
Absolutely.
So first of them, a lot of people asked about how many characters are going to be in the game, but a bigger question for me, because for me, stages give the life to the game, especially in the long run. So how many stages could we expect from 2XKO?
Yeah, we haven't really settled on like a final target for the stages, but I agree with you on like filling out the world and giving life to everything. One of the things that we feel very lucky about with our product is not all Riot games get to go all around the world, the Runeterran world that we're set in, right? And so since we are able to do these like snapshots everywhere, we actually get to show more of the world than we get to in other products. So we're really excited about doing that. So in the long run, we want to be able to do that a lot. We want to be able to go to all the different places and show you really cool parts of the lore and fill every stage with like little stuff that if you know, you know, and if not, it's just like a really lively, cool place to be.
Awesome. So yeah, my second question is like it's kind of a big question, but I had the opportunity to play test the game like for a number of times at this point since it was called Project L.
Yeah.
And I mean, I actually saw Vibe before. I played Vibe before in a very earlier build, and that brought me to a question like, how do you balance out the whole thing with like getting feedback from the community with Alpha Lab 1 or Alpha Lab 2 when we know that the game is like so far ahead in development? How do you balance that out and end up making changes?
Yeah, so we have a strong vision for what we want to do with the game, but of course we're making it for the fighting game players, right? And we want to make sure that we're finding this balance between we really want to do this because we really believe in it, and like how's everybody feeling about these choices that we're making. So we sort of set out with like what we want to do, listen to the players, sort of see how that all melds together, and then we make choices based on that, based on what everybody's sort of saying back to us. So we've always got our ears open, we're always paying attention to what people are saying, and we're just like looking at our opportunities that we have as a dev team to like address those and like weighing that against like moving forward and doing more new stuff as well. Yeah.
One of the critics from the audience, especially in Brazil, which I'm kind of closer to, so I saw it from them first, is on the sound effects department because of like how the hit effects, for example, they don't really sound as crunchy. They don't sound very impactful in their opinion. Is that something like it's not as satisfying as you would expect, like getting a gauntlet hit with Vi, for example, or getting an axe with Darius, of course. And is that a common point people talk about a lot of that? If so, does the team mean to address it at some point?
So I don't think that I've heard that one that much, but our audio team and our audio director Eugene, who I was on stream with yesterday, he's very like sensitive to making sure that all of this is really paying off for players. We know that like the animations come to life because of the sound comes to life because of the animations, the VFX, it all works together, right? It all has to feel really good. And so some of the previous versions that people have played also haven't had like everything in it, like everything that the audio team is intending. So as we're going into closed beta on September 9th, you're going to hear like the most refined version of it at that point, and we'll of course continue to like listen to feedback and just see what we need to do. But I would say that like from that point on, you're going to start hearing like the full vision for what they're looking for.
Awesome. So yeah, we've actually seen some situations in a couple fighting games where players usually try to disrupt gameplay by changing their skins, like either with skins or chromas. And from a competitive standpoint, like I'm a big fan of, I don't know, have you played Quake 3 by any chance?
Quake 3?
Yeah.
A long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Green Kill.
Okay.
So is there any chance we're gonna see something similar to Green Keel to help the competitive environment and make sure people are not trying to disrupt gameplay with cosmetics?
So we are sensitive to that. The first thing that we want to do before we add any other kind of solutions is just make sure that the cosmetics that we're putting out are exciting and people want them, but that they are competitively viable. We don't want to create a skin where everybody's picking it because it screws things up, or tournaments have to ban skins on a regular basis. That's not really where we want to be. So at the end of the day, we want to make things exciting, cool, but also have competitive integrity.
Awesome. One extra question, which I kind of forgot. Again, on the Green Keel topic. On other games, they have the option to force the opponent's skin. Is that something you guys plan on doing?
We aren't going to probably do something like that, like online, for instance, because, especially if somebody acquires a skin, they want to use it, right? Like, that's the whole point. And part of that is the other person sees it. So, again, going back to, like, the previous premise, like, we just want to make sure that all the skins that we're putting in are viable for combat. We don't want to do anything where we have to ban it, or that players are like, man, I wish I could ban this. So we'll see where things go. We'll see what the feedback from the players are. Players might disagree with us on whether or not a skin is competitively viable, but then we'll see how that goes, and we'll adapt and we'll evolve and figure it out. Yeah.
All right. So one of the biggest problems in terms of gaming setup optimizations, especially we've seen some of it at Evo. Actually, it really happens mostly because there's a lack of spectator mode, both especially offline. Like, there's no way to host an offline event and have a streaming setup with the host, showing all the best graphics and all that stuff, without sacrificing optimization for the player. Not only that, we've seen like those performance issues can ruin a player's tournament experience. Some of the reasons are because they're not making proper optimizations in the default settings, for example, for consoles. Is that something you would like to address with 2X on consoles, if you're allowed to talk about them right now?
Well, I think the main thing that I want to address there is that we want this game to be highly performant. That's always what we've aimed for. In fact, our min spec, when we finally get around to talking about all of that, is going to be, I think, a little bit lower than what people are expecting, because we just want it to be successful. As we know, Riot has really low min specs with some of their games. We aren't going to necessarily be able to do that just because of the nature of our game, but we want people all over the place, no matter what you're playing on, to be able to have a really good experience. So for consoles, you mentioned console should run the same everywhere, no matter what, no problems. And then PC will have a bit of a range, and then if you're within that range, you should have a flawless experience.
Also, recently Valorant has received a Unreal Engine 5 update, which drastically reduces its file size. I know the earlier builds, Project L, ran on UE4. If you're allowed to talk about the engine, are you guys using UE4? Are you guys planning to use UE5? Because there's a lot of issues with Unreal Engine and shader compilation stutter, and even in Alpha Lab I had some of those, so I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, all I can really say there is that we're aware of those types of limitations, and we always are trying to work to get around that and find the best solution for players. I think that as we're moving out of this phase where we're in Alpha Labs and we're going into closed beta and moving forward, you're going to run into less of those problems to the point where we're at zero of those problems, because as we've said, we want this to be a really smooth experience. From the time you decide to boot up the game, actually from the time you want to download the game, boot it up, play it, all that, we just want that to be really smooth, and we don't want people fiddling with a bunch of technical issues.
One last question, actually. So Alpha Lab 1, of course, has received a lot of criticism because of lack of tutorials and all that stuff. That was something we actually talked about extensively in our playtest sessions. Alpha Lab 2 was, of course, a step up. It was a lot better, but it felt a little bit convoluted. And I'm kind of curious because it's I feel like this is the most important thing for a player to stay engaged with the game, especially for beginners and intermediate players. So how are you guys planning on to tackle the player education for 2XKO?
That's great. So tutorials are really hard to make, and they're really hard to make where they feel like they are at your skill level, bring you up to where you want to be, that they're smooth, that they're engaging, all of those things. Our team got one together for AL2. That's sort of like the start of where we want to be, though. As time goes on, that team is taking feedback, making improvements. So by the time we're sort of like where we want to be with the tutorial, all the things that you're calling out, we want to be able to address. We want the tutorial to be engaging. We want it to be thorough. We want it to be fun. And we want players to sort of come out of that feeling like they actually have the tools to jump online and do stuff. So we'll get there, and we're working on it, and you'll see improvements as time goes on.
One last personal question. Whose idea was to give Darius a fireball?
That's a great question. That was actually the designer on Darius. As time was going on, we were looking at the way Darius was lining up in a lot of our matches, and we found that he actually was starting to fall behind. I know a lot of people will look at Darius and say he's a tank, he's a freight train, like he doesn't need something like that, and I know people have already kind of responded that way. But the thing that's really funny is when you get to really, really high level play, we're seeing that Darius can get into situations where he has no tools, no ways of getting out of it. And I mean, Steve, the guy who's the designer, he'll give you a way better answer, but all I'll say is that we have good reason to give it to him. It was a bit of a surprise when we first started discussing it, but it works. I think it makes sense. Yeah.
As a Darius player, I'm very happy.
Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, I bet you are.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking the time to do this with me. This is my actual first interview, especially in English. So yeah.
Awesome.
I'm having a great time with 2X. I hope everybody also will. So closed beta comes out in September 9th.
Yep, that's right.
A couple weeks away, just a little bit more, guys.
Almost there.